Hello guys and welcome to another video. Today we'll be talking about 25 highly controversial bookish opinions. So let's go. Let's go! Number 1, the movie can be better than the book, and apparently Legally Blonde is a book. So now I really want to read it, even though this claims that the movie is better. So maybe I'm better off not reading it, but the movie is so good that the book might just be like okay. And I agree. I think movies can be better than the books. The example that always comes to mind from a book and a movie that I have read and watched is To All the Boys I've Loved Before. I really fell in love with that movie when I watched it, and I enjoyed the book when I read it, but the feelings that the movie made me feel were just like top tier. I'm trying to think of more because I'm sure there are some. Those mainly have to do with books that maybe I didn't enjoy reading that much. I want to say The Hobbit and The Lord of the Rings just because I know that I wouldn't like those books because of the way they're written. From what I've heard people say about Tolkien's writing style, I don't think it aligns with what I like to read. I really enjoy those movies though. I think they're great. Oh, the Twilight movies are definitely much better than the books because nothing happens in the books. They always add action to the end of each film, and it's very much needed. I know I said that I love dialogue and characters, but it's too much. We're too deep inside Bella's head, and I just want to get out of there. A lot of controversial opinions about the Da Vinci Code. I haven't read it, so I'm gonna skip. Us men should read more romance novels. To be honest, they're very different from what's typically expected on our shelves, especially here in the States. There's just a stupid ass stigma amongst ourselves. I'm a large bearded fella who works with grain, and damn it, I enjoy the warm fuzzies of a cute romance novel. People can fight me if they think it's weird. Obviously, it's not weird. I think every genre is for every kind of person out there. It just depends on your own likes and preferences. I know that my brother specifically does not enjoy just reading something that's primarily focused on romance. He'd rather read like fantasy or action. I like romance, but I like it to be mixed with something else. If it's 50-50 romance and another genre, that's what I like. Physical books aren't superior to reading digitally. This just depends on your own preferences. This is gonna sound so bland. You do you. I was a hardcore supporter that the physical copy was always better. That's who I was before 2023, and then everything changed when the Fire Nation attacked. Honestly, they both have their pros and cons. There's nothing like having like a nice paperback that bends perfectly, the weight of a hardback, the smell of the book, being able to turn the pages and know exactly how much you have left. That is something that I miss. But the font being so big, this just such a special feeling. My controversial opinion is an adaptation of a book doesn't have to be exactly the same. They're completely different mediums, and sometimes the way an author writes something doesn't work as well in live action. I would completely agree. This is also something that applies to when doing an adaptation. Things don't always have to be live action. Sometimes animation works much better. And I think The Lunar Chronicles is going to be adapted into like a 2D animation movie, and I'm so excited for that because some things just don't translate well to live action, and it's okay. Animation is there, and obviously, yes, sometimes things in a book are not the same thing as things on a screen. So I would agree, changes have to be made because some things would look ridiculous. Harry Potter doesn't need more stories or spin-offs. I don't need to know what Hufflepuffs do in their spare time. I would agree. The only Harry Potter spin-off I would be even remotely interested in is The Marauders, and that's just because I love them. That's what got me into fanfiction thanks to my cousin Luthia. James and Lily are forever one of my OTPs, and I love James, Sirius, and Remus. Just their fanon relationship is everything. The only thing that's pushing me towards the not wanting that is that we all know how the story ends, and I cannot be put through that again, and not in an official manner. I hate when books bring real world shit like coronavirus, Trump, etc. into the plot. I mean, I would understand your opinion. I guess you were kind of like an escapist. You don't want to have that shit brought into your book. You just want like a nice romance or a nice contemporary. But it's still things that happen in the world, and if the book is a contemporary, it would make sense for those things to also be reflected there. Maybe not giving us much importance. Maybe stay away from books that have like political topics. Read read like a nice beach romance. I'm sure they wouldn't mention the coronavirus or Trump in them. Or hey, read a fantasy. I'm sure Trump is not in there. Or maybe he is. Books based on TV shows like Supernatural, Star Trek, Monk, and more are half the size of a standard paperback and read like an episode of the show, are completely worth relaxing with, and are the best kind of vacation, airplane, beach, and poolside reads. I have no opinion on this because I've never read a book based on a TV show, but if you have, let me know in the comments down below and if it's worth reading into, because I know Stranger Things does have spin-off books and I like Stranger Things, so let me know. I love The Catcher in the Rye, blah 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 blah. I thought he was insufferable and annoying when I read it. Granted, I was 13 or 14, so maybe I should reread it, let me know. I hate it when the book cover is changed to match the film or show based on it. I like imagining the characters not having the actor you choose invade my idea of the book. I love the wording, invade. Invade. Fair enough. I think it's good to have two options, you know, the original cover and then the movie tie-in edition. Because some people do like those, especially people who are not as frequent readers as we are, people who read because, oh yeah, that's a movie. I watched it, maybe I'll like the book. And they pick it up. It makes sense, you know? It gets people reading who don't read as often as we do. But if you're a collector or someone who just likes original covers, I think most of the time there's always the option to go with the original cover. This is really not that big of a problem. Trying to read as many books as possible in a month, year, etc. purely to hit a number entirely misses the point of reading. I completely agree. As someone who read 80 books last year and noticed that most of them were complete trash, I am now focusing on reading books that I know I will like or that will make me think. Those are my two categories right now. I have happy books or like fun books and books that make me think and grow as a person and a reader. Before I was doing the marathon that I'm doing right now, I read one happy fun book and then one makes me think book. And I like interchanging those. But yes, you should read because you want to read, because you're interested in what you're reading. You shouldn't be like me last year. You shouldn't just consume shit books just to like move along quickly. No, your time is precious. Spend it reading what you want to read. And it's okay to just read 20 books a year. It's okay to just read 12 books a year or less, or like one book a year. As long as you're reading, that's all that matters. That's all that matters. Sometimes the books aren't good, but the characters and concepts are. That's my unpopular opinion. I 100% agree. I've said this before. I enjoy characters and concepts and emotions and conversations and feelings and thoughts the most. But sometimes the plot just isn't there, or the writing just is not good enough to love the book. But the characters can still be awesome. I think this is a problem that happens with most of the books that I give 3 stars to, because I'm like, I really loved that side character. They were so snarky and funny and sarcastic, but the book was absolute shit. Nothing happened in it. This also really happens with TV shows for me. I get really attached to some characters, but the TV show is just like, So, agreed. The Hobbit is a better book than any of the trilogy. Cannot say I agree or disagree because I haven't read any of them. If you like Tolkien, please let me know down below and bully me into reading the trilogy. Or Hobbit, I don't care. But I am going to New Zealand, so I feel like that would be the perfect time to read it. I really like The Fault in Our Stars. It made me feel nostalgic for that time in a teenager's life where they go from wanting to be like everyone else to wanting to be different, and it captured the transition from the perception quite well. I get that the characters can come off as pretentious, but the teenagers are at that point, so I'll give it a pass. I think I would agree. I read this book because my friends were reading it at the time, and I read it before watching the movie, like a month before. And then I watched the movie and I enjoyed both of them, but I haven't read it since 2012 or 2013, so I would have to reread it. Offering incentives to get kids to read is a fantastic idea that should be brought back. When I was in elementary school, we had a system that was called AR, Accelerated Reading, that assigned points to every book in our school library. You then took an online test and you received the points if you got an 80% or better. The classics were worth double digits, and if I remember correctly, Les Miserables was the novel worth the most points with 45 available should you pass. This is a very interesting concept because I don't remember ever being incentivized to read as a kid. kid when I was in school, or by my parents because they're not huge readers either. This is not me blaming them for anything. Obviously, I turned out just fine, or maybe not. Honestly, the only reason I became a reader is because my friends were readers as well, and it helped that my sister really read as well. So it was more of like my home and friendship environment than anything else. But I think it's so cool when schools incentivize reading because it's a lot of fun, and especially right now with like iPad kids and all the time these damn new generations are spending on their phones and social media. It's just nice to know that there's another way to consume stories, and it doesn't have to be like 30 seconds long. It's nice to pay attention to something for a couple of hours. That's what I do. I get into like a reading spiral and I just sit there with a book for 3 hours. It's also making me blind as I would be watching Instagram on my phone, but at least it's for a good cause. Utopian fiction is more interesting than dystopian fiction. I don't think I've read utopian fiction. Is that a thing? For me, a dystopia is a much more real thing than a utopia. Obviously, I don't think so. I think utopian is, I think it would have to be very well done for me to believe that this is a utopia. And I think they're more subjective to what the author thinks would be the perfect civilization. So, I don't know, can't say that I agree with that one. I've seen a lot of people say they only read books once, and in their words, why would they reread a book when they could read a new one? I think rereading books is crucial to a deep understanding of the work. Read the book once for the plot, read again for the theme, read a third time for patterns and details you didn't catch before. This might be a little bit too much and extreme for me, but I would agree. I reread all the time and I love it. I think reading a book once and giving it 3 stars is fine, but for anything I give like a 4 or definitely a 5 stars, I am probably rereading that. Maybe that very same year, maybe just a couple of years later. But I like to be reminded of why I loved the book that much in the first place. And honestly, with a lot of books, you notice so many different things that you didn't notice the first read through. And it's so much fun to catch them. And now you know where your favorite parts are gonna be, so you get so excited to get to them, and it still feels like the very first time. I love rereading so much, and a lot of people in my family don't. I feel like I'm the only person I know who rereads books so much, but it just makes me so happy, so nostalgic, and it's like riding a bike, you know? It's something that you always know you're going to enjoy, and it's so much easier than picking up a new book, especially if it's fantasy or like a whole series. It feels like putting on a pair of like worn boots that you know are super comfy and just like, I can do this all day. Calvin and Hobbes is better written than 90% of the books I've read. I haven't read that much from Calvin and Hobbes, but I will take your word on it. I think it's pretty well written from what I've read. The drawings are so cute. The world of I'm a book reading person who reads books, merchandise, memes, etc. is cringe as shit. Can't say that I 100% agree, but yes, most of them are like pretty cringe, and I hate using that word. But yeah, some of them are just not a vibe. But some of them can be really great. I don't have any with me right now, but I think some like book-specific merchandise is really nice, and some book-generic merchandise can be good as well. Overall, Agatha Christie is a better author than Arthur Conan Doyle, but Sherlock Holmes is a better character than Poirot. So I've never read either of the books that these characters are in, so I can't say. I did really enjoy Robert Downey Jr.'s portrayal of Sherlock Holmes. I have been to 221 B Baker Street, is that what they call it, or 221? And I took a picture with Sherlock Holmes, so I guess that puts me in the Sherlock Holmes team? I don't know. Poirot has a really fun mustache. Just because you have criticisms about the book, it doesn't mean you don't like it or think the whole thing is shit. Just because I found a plot hole in a book and point it out doesn't mean I'm hating on that book. It just means I found a plot hole in the book. Far too many people think that enjoyment or quality is binary. You love it or you hated it, it's perfect or it's terrible. That is correct, my friend. Only the Sith deal in absolutes. This is a mindset that is very common nowadays. You like it or you hate it, there's no in between, and if you like it, you have to like every single aspect of it. You're not allowed to criticize it. There's not like good criticism anymore, or like good feedback. If you like it, shut up. You love everything. And I don't agree with that mindset. I know that every single thing that I love has things that aren't so great in them. Nothing is 100% good. It can be 100% good to me, but I understand other people's valid criticism. Things aren't perfect, and you're allowed to not enjoy every single aspect of something that you enjoy. The more you know, the more you know. Hardcover books are just not as good as paperback. As someone who reads ebooks now, I don't really have an opinion on this, but looking at my shelf right now, I do have more paperbacks, and not only because they're much less expensive, but because they're more comfortable to travel with, to read in the subway, to take with you. They're not as heavy. If you're reading on your bed, they're more comfortable to read on your side, or holding it like this, they're just less heavy and more flexible. So although I generally enjoy looking at hardcovers more, I think paperbacks are mostly the way to go, unless you really like a book or series, and then I would say invest in that hardcover. But it is an investment, my friend. Reading while walking is one of the great pleasures in life, and it's a superior way to read. Find a nice flat park with wide lanes and no open manholes. Very important instructions for this one, because that could get dangerous quite fast. And also don't walk on the grass, because there might be dog poo-poo on there. If I go outside, I don't want to be looking at a book, because I go outside to give my eyes a rest from looking at this distance. So I would say go on a walk and listen to an audiobook. That is one of the biggest pleasures in life. I said what I said. And finally, I like all the whaling details in Moby Dick. Have not read Moby Dick. The closest I've come to reading Moby Dick is watching Heart of the Sea with Tom Holland and Chris Hemsworth on it. Very far from reading Moby Dick, but not as far as I could be. So I definitely have absolutely no opinion. I just have a theory that I would not agree with this. So those were 25 very controversial, supposedly, opinions about books and readers in general. Let me know, what do you think down below? And if you have a really hot take, I would love to read that in the comments. Please leave a like if you like this video. Obviously, comment down below if you thought they were controversial, because I thought they were a bit tame. Subscribe if you haven't already, and click that bell button to get notifications every time I post a new video. I post videos just like this every single Friday, and I guess I'll see you guys next time. Bye!